It has walked with
What's going on, everybody? So today I got a bunch of parts to kind of like mock up in the Model T today. So I'm here at the shop. Figured, I wasn't doing much today, so I'm probably gonna do a couple parts runs. I gotta go to the local Tractor Supply because I have to get some bolts so I can kind of mount my brake pedal assembly. These will be going somewhere in here. I gotta figure out where I'm gonna put everything. That's why nothing is like welded in. And I don't exactly know like where my pedals and stuff are gonna go yet. So, and I actually might have to relocate this the steering column. So I have a lot of room on the firewall. I did already cut a hole here, but I was gonna, if this didn't work out, I'm gonna patch this hole and then I'll move this over probably about an inch or so. This way it comes through right here. And then it gives me more room on the column for my pedals and all that, and it'll move it over slightly a bit, but just a tad, because I have a swivel joint down there on the actual like linkage itself, so this can bend, fore and aft. And then I ordered let's see if I can get this, a support bearing that's gonna go probably in here. Hey, look, shitty welds. The support bearing is gonna go in here, and then it'll sit and just kind of guide this, because what's happening now is when I go to turn, the steering just wants to flop everywhere. Like, I can turn the wheels the way it is. I can sit here and spin the steering wheel, but the steering will just flop and hit everything. So I have to support it there. This bar here, I haven't decided yet, like where I'm gonna mount it. I'm probably, because it's gonna get welded to this structure here, but I'm gonna weld it probably higher onto this structure here, right? And then I'm gonna build like a basis around this that's gonna house my pedal, my brake pedal and my gas pedal. So I'll figure that out here in a little bit. But I also got my Heim joints. So what I'm doing with these is, let me see, where are they? Well, regardless, I have more tube like this. So I'm gonna be lengthening my push rod here, because the car has this like ridiculous camber. I mean, you can see it on both sides, and that's just because it's all the way down on the cross member. So I cut the bars too short, so now I just need to cut some longer ones. But basically, if you look, you can see it's about maybe quarter of an inch off the ground, which is not acceptable. I'm gonna raise it up to where it's about maybe 3 inches off the ground. The suspension itself is so stiff that if it's about 3 inches off the ground, so the way that the cross member is set up, if it's at a certain distance, height wise, and everything is in between the wheels. So if you can see, the cross member itself is centered in between my rims, right? The whole thing. So what happens when you go over a speed bump? Well, the tires always hit first, right? but that is if you take into consideration the cross member has to be raised up slightly a bit. So if I take it about 3 inches, it might be above this lip right here, just a little bit, right? So it's still gonna be super slammed like the way it is, but it'll give me that assurity knowing that I'm not gonna bottom out and, you know, break this cross member or whatever, anything like that. And I chose stiffer spring rates, and the way that the suspension is set up, it's a 2-to-1 setup. So the way that it works is the coilovers themselves are now doubled the spring rate, because if I used a thicker bar and I used a thicker spring, right? So it might not ride the best, but you have to consider, like, it's meant to be low. Like, it's gonna have this low center of gravity. It's not gonna have a lot of rebound. Like, it's not gonna be a Cadillac, you know? So, in that aspect, like, just going up about 3 inches, the cross member will never hit the way that it sits now, just because the wheels are always gonna touch first, right? And by the time I go over the bump, or speed bump, or whatever, the wheel has already raised up. So go from the very level of a speed bump now to the midpoint, which is the highest point. Now you have, you know, the car is essentially raised up. So it's never gonna hit. It'll never hit. The car also has such a short wheelbase. It's 100 inches exactly. The way I set it up was 100 inches. Since it's such a short wheelbase, the car will never bottom out. The car is about, I want to say, maybe 3 inches off the ground now. The back might go up slightly, so I have to raise those up on the coilovers. Just a tad, but it'll never bottom out. Might scrape a little bit, but I'll never bottom out and get stuck, you know, just because it's got such a short wheelbase. So that's kind of the plan, is to raise up the car now, get the suspension fixed, because otherwise I can't drive it like that. And my plan is to get all the brake pedal in, gas pedal in, steering mounted, finish all my wiring, because as you can see, like, it's still kind of a mess, but I just wanted to see everything. And it's only like this because we tested out the headers, if you remember, in the last video. We wanted to see, like, how it sounded, and damn, it sounds good. But I'm gonna get to it and bring you guys along with me, so yeah, let's do that. All right, guys. So right now I was just working on the front splitter. I got some of that welded in. Well, I got the whole thing welded in actually. I need to trim some pieces so it kind of like forms with one another, because there's still some like edges sticking out that are like too sharp. Plus, what I'm going to do is I'm going to notch a point in the center, so it's as a jack point. Um, so like right now, as you can see, I got everything welded together. That's final weld. I know that's like where everything's gonna be, but you see like back here, so I'm gonna kind of radius it, you know, flow with the lines, and then same thing there. This is where I'm gonna notch it out for the jack. This is a jack point on the front. But yeah, all these tabs and everything are all welded in, so looks pretty cool. And for those of you that think it doesn't work or it's not functional, here, let me get a better shot for you. Might be hard to tell, but the car's moving up and down. So this thing is in there. It's solid, sturdy. So yeah, I'm just gonna clean up the welds now and probably give it a paint. We'll see.